You guys, because that one's a very long series, is the end of a couple of pair of series that we were recording throughout the entire Swiss as we get ready for the next round as well. So we're going to hop into the middle of a series between Vlps from Temple Storm up against a SoCal player and who you may have seen from time to time. In fact, these guys are good buddies, and in fact, part of his stream has VLPS emotes in his chat. So it's just kind of like unfortunate, but that's kind of the nature of competition. You're bound to run into some of your friends and practice partners.
Yeah, and even has one of his deck lists named VLPS in this tournament itself.
Right,
so
right.
These guys are definitely very familiar with one another, and they had a pretty epic game 4 that you said you made it to catch.
I did. Right before the series, I was watching what was happening from games 1 to 3. It was a little bit back and forth. VLPS is targeting aggro and happened to bring an aggro lineup. So games 1 and 2, they trade Paladin and Warrior. It seems like their Paladins kept losing to each other's Warriors, and of course had the Pirate Warrior. Game 3 was pretty systematic, where Ant took a lead, but game 4 was what was crazy. Ant on turn 1 played his entire hand. He innervated out a Vicious Fledgling and a Power of the Wild, and that stuck for 7 turns before the Vicious Fledgling died, and he still didn't win. VLPS was down to like 4 or 5 health at one point. VLPS barely gets a taunt wall up, and now we're here in game number 5.
Yeah, well, this one's looking to be a bit faster than that one, I imagine, with the Mage versus the Aggro Druid here. The VLPS is playing kind of a hybrid, more of the aggressive, but not really Discover Mage. He doesn't actually have the Cabal Couriers, which are pretty typical in the Sai Gunther Mage, as people say. He has Pyros in his deck along with Blood Mage Thalnos for a little bit more early game. That not quite coming up here, though, as he just has Medivh Valet, which doesn't get to fight in the board here because of the Tar Creeper from Ant, which is kind of an unusual inclusion in his Aggro Druid deck.
Yeah, it seems to serve to really protect a lot of these threats. For example, of how well it makes Direwolf Alpha a big threat. And VLPS is in big trouble already. You can see on turn 3, he's threatened with a ton of power onto the board and needs to find some kind of AoE or stall. Finds Meteor, but he can't play it this turn. He can play it next turn.
Yeah, he has a Frostbolt this turn that can remove the Direwolf Alpha, and that allows him to Meteor next turn, which can almost remove the entire board.
Yeah, and there's nothing to Ant for play, except I think I just saw Power of the Wild, which puts a lot of those minions just outside of range of Meteor.
Oh god, yeah,
that's pretty nasty.
Yeah, that Meteor goes from leave you with a Tar Creeper to kill a thing. That's a lot worse. He does have Ice Block Medivh Valet, but with the huge health from the double buffs on Ant's minions, he doesn't really have any opportunity to effectively use the Valet for removal. It would not really buy him much time at all. If he had 1 more mana, he could Meteor and ping something down, but as it stands, this is looking really tough for VLPS.
Yeah, this is a stark contrast from the series you just watched between fellow Canadians Sidonia and Monsanto, where there was a very long, drawn-out, like 15, 16 turns on both sides. Now we're here, and VLPS is staring at lethal next turn.
Yeah, given how long some of these matches are taking, I can appreciate games like this. I really can.
It's a good dynamic. You kind of need both for the ecosystem because you never know what to expect. VLPS at this point definitely wish he could have dragged it a little bit longer. He's got some really powerful cards like Flame Strike, Firelance Portal, but he's not going to be able to get to that point. And that's kind of what the Aggro Druid does, and that's why so many people love and hate it. Some people say that it's capable of some of the most explosive openings in Hearthstone, but if you don't get it, sometimes you get these awkward 1-2s just flooding the board, and they just get picked apart. VLPS is going for Ice Block because he knows he probably has a high chance of dying, but in the grand scheme of things, is this really going to help me?
I mean, his block is pretty much guaranteed to get popped this turn, and there's another Mark of the Lotus if Ant wants it, and he can even pop him at 1, which means that VLPS would need to be able to answer not only the board, but also Ant's hero power. So I can't even think of a single card that he could draw that would actually close out the game at that point. I mean, if he drew, say, Frostbolt, he could perhaps Meteor and then Frostbolt the face, but VLPS even has the ability to protect from that with just playing the Bittertide Hydra this turn, which gives him too big of a board in order for even the Meteor to take down.
Yeah, where's the Volcano when you need one? Although you couldn't even kill it, guaranteed.
He's at 31 too.
Yeah, he's at 31.
He's not going to kill him either.
Yeah, it's a polymorph, but that looks to be it. Don't really see a way for VLPS to get out of this position, and just as quickly as we got to the series is where we'll exit. Unless VLPS sees some kind of way, but he's going to ping himself. Spots of lethal. Ant's gonna live and move on to 3-1. VLPS still in it, and he's gonna hope that Ant continues to win in order to have a good tiebreaker moving into the future rounds of Swiss.
Yeah, pick up your second loss in the middle of the Swiss is still pretty rough because you're still playing against people in the later rounds who have picked up losses and perhaps likely to drop even if they pick up another one. So that can be tough on your tiebreakers, but still not totally out of the woods just yet.
Yeah, that's right. VLPS dropped earlier to VCT, who you guys managed to catch on stream. And the only guy he lost to is Quonet, who we're actually going to feature as another series. We caught the end of him versus Cheese, who has very similar lineup to